Story 1. Taking a proactive approach to helping with various chores, such as laundry and dishes, without being asked. Story 2. Observational ability. Do you notice her new haircut, or that she is wearing the outfit from your first date? Have you noticed the trash needs to be taken out? Can you tell she is not feeling 100% today? Some men are great at noticing things, and it is generally appreciated. Being seen is a gift we should all give our partners. Story 3. Men who are kind because that is who they are, not out of fear of rejection or because they want something from you, such as validation or affection. Story 4. Being subtle and doing thoughtful things very quietly. I fell hard for someone who was extremely attentive and caring without making loud moves or big gestures. Story 5. Calm and composed during stressful situations. So attractive. Story 6. Competence means being able to handle adult responsibilities. We can fully do everything the other person can do, which means we can fill in for each other when needed. Story 7. Has healthy platonic relationships with other women. Maintains good hygiene. Is comfortable in his own masculinity. Being homophobic or transphobic is a turnoff. Knows how to cook and perform household chores. Is nurturing and caring toward animals and children. Cats are a bonus. Story 8. Being a cat guy. This does not mean he dislikes dogs or does not have dogs. But there is something special about a man who coos over his cat and has a close bond with her. My cat has been skittish and fearful of people since she was a tiny kitten. The second time my now husband came to my place, she jumped onto the couch and curled up right against him. He fell in love with her immediately and proceeded to spoil her rotten. A man who lets a cat be herself and accepts the love she offers without demanding loyalty or obedience is the kind of man I have had good experiences with. Story 9. Holding our hands or putting an arm around us in public makes us feel safe and protected. Story 10. Not grand gestures or empty promises. He does what he says. He texts when he says he will, shows up on time, and remembers small details. Reliability is criminally underrated. Story 11. Phone etiquette. You know that old rule. Do not call or text 47 times in a row, then act personally victimized when I do not respond within 12 minutes. Stop grabbing that small 6-inch screen every time your brain twitches. Practice patience. Breathe, meditate, and regulate your emotions. Do not ramble at me. This is a phone, not a distress beacon. Story 12. Emotional intelligence and compassion. Good decision-making. Accountability. Story 13. Communication. Kindness. A Dracula-type loyalty. Long-lasting, tight hugs with both arms. Share your interests. For the love of everything good in this world. Be slow to anger. Story 14. I greatly admire his ability to listen without offering any fix-it feedback when we are venting about our day. He simply listens rather than offering responses intended to make us feel better. Story 15. Underrated. Everyone. The thing I love is the way men move and position their limbs. Some men who would look unremarkable in a still photo move in a uniquely masculine way that makes me swoon. They often do it unconsciously because no one mentions it, but I immediately notice when a man has an attractive walk, an appealing lean over a table, or expressive facial gestures while talking. This is my favorite thing about men. Story 16. Men who recognize and show appreciation for things I do or have done to make their world better. Story 17. People are often very helpful. I am very short, under 5 feet tall. Almost every time I go to the grocery store, I have to ask someone to reach something for me. It has been that way all my life, and almost everyone is willing to help. When a man helps me, I can tell he is happy to do so. Story 18. Most of these are not underrated qualities. They are obvious things women prefer in men. Story 19. Someone should pin this post to the subreddits focused on dating and single men. Empathy, kindness, and patience are such lovely qualities to see in men. Story 20. A lot of women dig that I don't like sports. I wish I knew years ago that this could be a selling point. Story 21. It's already been said, but empathy seems to be in short supply these days, and women are guilty of this too. Story 22. Original poster, here is a harsh reality. What women say they want in men does not always match what they actually respond to. It may seem like you get a lot of bad answers, especially when you go out and try things. The reason is simple. In their minds, they list what they wish the guy they are already attracted to would do for them. For them, attraction is assumed. The reality is that what attracts them is an entirely different set of behaviors. Story 23. Intelligence. There is something so attractive about a man who is sharp, witty, and brilliant, telling me about some complicated mathematical theorem. Story 24. It is so cute when he is sleepy or actually talking about his feelings. Story 25. As a man, I have found that a sense of humor and intelligence help a guy's situation more than he thinks. A sense of humor in particular has done amazing things for me with women. Story 26. I imagine that women prefer men who drive safely and do not engage in reckless behavior behind the wheel. Story 27. Being calm in chaos, when everything is going wrong and he is steady, kind, and not making it worse. Story 28. Be willing to partner dance. Bonus points if they can really lead. Story 29. Be emotionally calm, not cold but grounded. Do not freak out when things go wrong. Many women appreciate that quiet steadiness because it makes them feel safe without trying. Another quality is patience, not just with her but with life. There is something very attractive about a man who does not rush, who takes his time and is okay with letting things unfold naturally. Story 30. I thought this thread was about qualities of women that men like, and all the replies made sense. Story 31. Good self-esteem, not arrogance, but the ability to know what he wants and to express it respectfully. Story 32. Charm, but not a forced kind that makes you seem as if you are putting on a character. I mean charm built on sincerity and who you truly are. I find it hard to articulate, but at least one woman I respect has called me charming. I do not believe my charm is conscious. I often do not realize I am being charming until someone tells me. Story 33. When I was 25 or 26 and in a rough spot with dating, I was talking to my dad. He said, "You know the Cyndi Lauper song Girls Just Want to Have Fun?" I said yes, and he said that is the best advice there is. He was right. Be fun. If you are a decent person whom others enjoy spending time with, be fun and the rest will work out if it is the right match. Story 34. My girlfriend likes my butt. She once bit it hard enough to leave a mark. Kettlebell swings for the win. Story 35. Integrity is being a good person, accountable, humble, and kind. I would not call it underrated, but it does not seem to be understood by many men, especially online, on Reddit, and in the manosphere. Story 36. I love seeing the boyish nature in my husband. We connect through shared childhood memories and life experiences. I appreciate his genuine sensitivity and the trust he places in me by letting me see it, and I place the same trust in him. Story 37. Women are looking for clean, well-groomed male housemates who cater to emotional needs. Story 38. My wife loves that I can fix cars, do gardening, and handle home maintenance and plumbing. Story 39. Show your emotions. At 30, I'm past men who think the only acceptable emotions are anger and happiness. Be vulnerable. You are just as human as I am. To the men who will inevitably tell me I'm wrong and claim others will use your vulnerability against you later. That's not true. Get therapy and stop projecting your failed relationships onto every woman you meet. Story 40. Self-awareness. A man who can say, yes, I was wrong, or say that something hurt his feelings without turning it into a big ego issue is 10 out of 10. Emotional regulation is highly underrated. Story 41. The ability to write a proper sentence has to be up there somewhere. Story 42. Being calm and empathetic is important to me. I don't care how great you are otherwise, but if you lose your temper easily or can't put yourself in someone else's shoes, I'm not into it. Story 43. My crush is so incredibly kind. He notices when I am left out of conversations and translates for me because I live in a foreign country. He is also one of the few people who notices when I have silent anxiety attacks and tries to cheer me up. When I was sick, he brought me extra blankets, food, and a hot water bottle. That makes him so endearing. Story 44. I am reading about what women want, but they seem to be ignored at nightclubs. Maybe they mainly want height and good looks. Story 45. Honesty, integrity, emotional intelligence, congruence, and consistency. Story 46. 90% of the thread consists of people mentioning qualities that are not underrated. What do you mean? Doing chores is underrated. Laughing my ass off. Story 47. Being stoic. Most women like emotionally vulnerable men, but I don't. Stoic men are the best. Story 48. Open the door. It is so simple, or walk on the side of the road where cars drive. Story 49. Can you do a windmill while singing silly songs? I am in. Story 50. Have genuine interests such as books, writing, Pokemon, art, history, culture, and animals or pets. Story 51. If it is underrated, by definition, women do not like it the most. Story 52. Career-driven, successful, determined, loyal, organized, neat, fit, tall, athletic, charismatic, kind, chivalrous, and confident. Story 53. Being able to communicate when the honeymoon phase is over often does not happen. Story 54. Confidence, competence, compassion, comedy, and kindness. Story 55. If a quality is something people like the most, is it by definition not underrated? Story 56. I like an appropriate amount of confidence. I am not sure where the line is, but it reassures and attracts me. Story 57. I met a man who always listened to me. He came to understand something that had never happened to me because of something as simple as listening. If you listen, you learn. If you learn, you can reach anyone. Just listen. Story 58. Gentleness, consideration, emotional intelligence, and a willingness to help. Story 59. In this thread, all the well-known qualities, not the underrated ones. Story 60. I will describe my boyfriend. He has a deep voice, niche interests, high intelligence, is observant, and is consistently calm and relaxed. Story 61. A person has a concrete plan for the future and implements it through consistent, ongoing actions. Story 62. When they do not say anything rude about a floppy vagina. Story 63. This is honestly just a personal thing. If someone is a music genius and their taste in music is good, that is the ticket to my heart. Story 64. He doesn't have to understand why I'm emotional to comfort me. I never have to explain that to him, but I can if I want. As someone who has experienced abuse, that means the world to me. Matching, synergistic energy. We share the same goofy energy, but you don't have to match to be compatible. Maybe he likes being quiet while you do most of the talking in social situations. If it works, that's fine. Communication. I can go to him with anything, even if it's something he did that bothers me, and vice versa. We don't get defensive. We listen, and if necessary, we explain our reasoning without saying, "You shouldn't feel the way you do." Story 65. Caretaking. Bringing me a cup of water or getting the heating pad when I have cramps. Swoon. Story 66. Kind. Able to feed and dress himself. Cleans up well and is on time. Story 67. Honestly, emotional steadiness. A man who does not panic or play games and makes you feel safe just by being calm. That is seriously underrated. It is not flashy, but it is rare and it shows. Story 68. Consistency. Grand gestures are nice, but texting back when you say you will, showing up when you say you will, and being the same person every day are very attractive. Story 69. Intelligence. I suppose that when people search for a partner, they may be more focused on looks or personality. For me, it is intelligence. Story 70. This question is always funny because 80% of the qualities described are characteristic of women. Story 71. Healthy masculinity means making decisions, taking charge of situations when I feel lost, being physically strong, teaching me things he knows more about, guiding me in areas where he has experience, and being a strong, safe base when I am vulnerable. Story 72. A man who does what he says he will do is underrated. People do not talk about this quality, but they indirectly crave it without being able to verbalize it. People call it being driven or confident, but in reality it is simply competence and honor. Many men try to shortcut their way to appearing attractive instead of building practical habits that make them attractive. If you say you are going to do something, even something small like taking out the trash or doing the dishes, and then do not do it, how can anyone, including your partner, believe you can handle the big, important things? In summary, Luke 16 verse 10, whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. Story 73. Nothing turns me on more than a man with a sexy back or good collarbones. Story 74. When I have many of the traits mentioned in this thread, they are things people can only discover after they get to know me better. The women I am interested in do not want to find out. These are not topics for a short first conversation, especially if I am not completely comfortable with strangers. People who know me keep wondering how I am still single. I guess the person who tries to crack my shell will hit the jackpot. Story 75. A man who likes to fix things around the house. It's just so hot. I don't know. Story 76. My girlfriend used to appreciate that I am into the psychology of colors and knew that there are more than 5 or 6. Apparently that is rare. Story 77. Patience, understanding, basic compassion. The top-tier man is just your average woman. Story 78. Most men think emotions make them weak. Dude, trust me. If you are vulnerable around me, that is a blessing. Please tell me what is going on. I will not judge you for having feelings. Story 79. Jealousy? Not the controlling kind. When he sees you talking to a man you have a history with, he watches closely and tries to bring it up without sounding jealous, saying awaga. Story 80. It is probably our ability to get things from the top shelf, but they would never admit it. Ladies. Story 81. Hands-on work, including woodwork, mechanics, and gardening, and the ability to discuss politics and world news. Story 82. Calling out friends who are being rude, bigoted, or disrespectful, either in front of the group or one-on-one. Story 83. Good hygiene, a suave manner, emotional intelligence and self-regulation, and well-groomed hands and wrists, especially when veins are visible. Story 84. Share the domestic emotional labor and keep a personal diary of birthdays, appointments, grocery lists, and bill payment due dates. Story 85. Preferences change over time and across cultures. Good hygiene is highly valued in some cultures and considered essential everywhere. This includes regular showers, smelling pleasant, and having fresh breath. Sexual hygiene is also important in many places. Facial hair preferences vary. Large mustaches and beards are admired by some. Shaving may change others' interest. Conversely, some prefer a neatly trimmed or clean-shaven face and notice even small stubble. Financial stability can be more important than looks for many people. The ability to provide security is a strong attraction factor. Intelligence, including emotional and social intelligence, is widely valued. Problem-solving skills, crisis management, and the ability to form deep emotional connections are attractive to many. Some people also appreciate wit and social charm. Others find high intelligence intimidating and prefer simplicity or dislike perceived know-it-alls. Calmness, understanding, and a willingness to compromise are generally seen as positive qualities. However, some are drawn to passion and intensity, even when it comes across as anger or arguing, because it signals strong feelings. A strong or pleasant voice can also play a significant role in attraction. Story 86. Sensitivity, mature communication, a reciprocal sounding board, and humility. I think men underestimate the importance of being sensitive and understanding of both themselves and their partner. Toxic masculinity and preconceived gender roles put men in a box where they are not allowed to be anything but macho and solemn. They are expected to push all their emotions down because talking about their feelings or crying would make them appear weak to others. They have to be a man. It is an unfair, toxic role, and I hate that it is pushed on them. When men show the qualities I listed, they are almost always appreciated by their partner unless she is emotionally unhealthy. Less seriously, I love when men have a genuine interest and their eyes light up. I enjoy seeing boyish charm and spark, Story 87. Underrated. A man who can fix things or at least tries, who builds, and who can talk about his hobbies and interests. I love when a man gets excited and rambles. Another underrated quality is being kind to strangers without thinking about it. I do not understand when women get mad that their partners help a stranger. Why be upset that your partner is kind? Story 88. Cleanliness, grooming, self-care, and hygiene are important. Fashion does not need to be trendy. It should express the wearer. Story 89. Empathy, loyalty, humility, honesty, transparency, patience, compassion, emotional intelligence, open-mindedness, and a non-judgmental attitude. Story 90. A clear conscience, determination, kindness toward others, empathy, strength in life, hard work, and honesty. Story 91. Treating me like a human being who has real thoughts and feelings versus an object. Story 92. Proper communication skills. That applies to speaking, for example, I am not an expert, and to writing, including the difference between your and between their and their run-on sentences, punctuation, and spelling. I do not expect perfection, but I do not want to spend time deciphering what he is trying to say. Story 93. Handle your business. Fix things when they break. Stop spending excessive time on video games and act responsibly. Do these simple things, and in 2025 you will stand out from the majority of today's complacent people. Story 94. Do the same things a good mother would ask of you. Be the easy person to live with. Story 95. How does he treat those who rank below him, such as someone in the service industry? I do not want to be with a man who behaves like a Karen. Can he nurture something until it thrives? That is the best way to tell if he is father material. Story 96. If you listen to women, ask questions, and do not make the conversation about yourself, you will be surprised how much they appreciate it. Many men make the mistake of telling women how pretty or attractive they are, but in my experience, women prefer when you listen to what they have to say and learn about them. I used to work with an attractive woman who was approached often, but I spoke to her like a normal colleague. Now she goes out of her way to converse with me. Story 97. Noticing their mess and cleaning it up without being asked or told. Story 98. Thoughtfulness, empathy, and genuine kindness. Also, nice hands and eyes. Story 99. Seeing me as an intellectual equal and having deep conversations with me regularly just gets me. Story 100. Several women in my life have expressed appreciation for my clear, logical mind, especially when they lacked it in critical situations. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.